All right. Good morning, everyone. Thanks for joining Hindi University. We are back again on Sunday classes. Last week we couldn't have it, so my apologies for that. We decided to do a topic on Diwali, right? So in this particular class, we still have the Diwali special. Okay. So in this particular class, we'll be learning a lot of interrogatives. Uh, I'm sure most of you are already familiar with Hindi interrogatives, but we will learn them with respect to how to use these interrogatives for all the festivals. And repetitively, you'll be seeing the the linking of the Diwali festival with these all these interrogatives. So we'll be learning about what, who, how, when, right? So all these interrogatives we'll be learning about. Just give me a quick minute just to make sure that I put everyone on the mute. Okay, so let's get going. So in these interrogatives, we'll be covering a lot of things like such as, when. So if we talk about Diwali per se, we'll be talking about any festival. When is it? Right? That's the first thing it probably comes to your mind. When is it? What it is about? What is it about? The festival, right? Who celebrates it? Who celebrates the festival? How how do they celebrate it? How do they celebrate it? And why do they celebrate it? So if you look at these kind of questions, you'll be seeing two things which are very common. First is like the use of interrogatives, which is there in all the questions, and second thing is like these can be applied for any kind of festivity, any festival, be it Diwali, be it Holi, Thanksgiving, Christmas, right? So by the end of today's class, you should be in a position to talk about any festival, and you should be able to have a meaningful conversation with any native person, right? And not just again Diwali, but any festival you can think of, right? So we'll start with the first one. When is Diwali? Right. So imagine yourself like you have like right now most of you are already familiar with the concept of Diwali. But let's say you are meeting someone for the first time and you come to know about the festival, right? And you want to know about when, right? So the first is, when is Diwali? So let me give you this opportunity. Before I give you the answer, why don't you guys take 30 seconds and tell me how would you say this thing in Hindi? Okay, good. So as you guys rightly pointed out, when we talk about when, it's basically kab, ka and then ba, kab. So the easiest way to say is Diwali, is the verb with a and la with badi e, Diwali. Diwali kab hai. Or you can say, if you want to write it in Romanagri, Diwali kab hai, right? Diwali kab hai. Now let's talk about other way of saying the same sentence. right? So that's the first way of saying it, Diwali kab hai. The second one is like, in which you use the verb called ana. Ana is to come and jana is to go, right? And you want to say, when will Diwali come? In that case, you use a future indefinite. You can say Diwali कब आएगी. Diwali कब आएगी, and again you're using आएगी not आएगा, because Diwali in this case is considered festival is considered like a feminine, right? In this case, so Diwali कब आएगी, that's another way of saying it, Diwali कब आएगी. Okay, both of them are right. Okay, so just to extend it a little further, you can use the same thing for other festival as well, like Thanksgiving. You can say Thanksgiving कब है, okay, or you can say Christmas कब है. To the extent that you want to find out when are your holidays, right? If you're talking to a kid, let's say, right, and if you want to ask them when are your holidays, right, you can say आपकी, and holidays are छुट्टी, one छुट्टी, and if you're talking about holidays, plural, right, आपकी छुट्टियां कब है, आपकी छुट्टियां कब है, and this is holidays. आपकी छुट्टियां कब है, आप when are the holidays. So again, just to repeat, the primary focus is to learn about this interrogative kab, right? And we are trying to learn it in the context of festival. So festival kab hai, right? If you want to just simply say a generic festival, you can say that as well, and that would be यह festival, यह festival कब आएगा. So let's say you're talking to someone in any different country, right? So यह is this. Either you can say festival or you can say त्योहार, त्योहार, right? Erase it again. त्योहार, right? So it's. I hope you can read it. If not, I'm going to write it again. त्योहार, त्योहार, right? So it's यह festival कब आएगा? When will this festival come? Or if you want to say the same thing in present indefinite, right? Because it comes, let's say, every year, right? The festival comes in a particular frequency, so then it becomes like a regular thing. So the same thing you can say in a present indefinite way as यह त्योहार कब आता है. यह त्योहार कब आता है. And again, if you focus it, the base verb is ana, and because it's present indefinite, we are saying it आता. यह त्योहार कब आता है, right? It's interesting because when we spoke about Diwali, we said it's feminine, right? But when we said Tyohar, it's considered masculine, right? So if I say in present indefinite role, if I'm saying it, I'll say Diwali कब आती, दिवाली कब आती है, right? दिवाली कब आती है. Again, Diwali is a feminine, right? You can replace Diwali and you can say Holi. Holi kab aati hai. So I hope this is clear. Again, the concept is that you should be able to ask anyone about when does this festival come, right? Um, I hope this is clear. Let me know if you have any more question. Which way is more common? Well, both of them are equally common, but the simpler way would be kab hai. That's the easiest way for you. That if you don't want to go too complicated, you can simply say Diwali kab hai, right? But you'll say equal number of people, saying it kab aati hai, or and the equal number of people will say kab hai. So both of them are equally common, right? Let's say now I'm going to quiz you on this particular interrogative, and if we take a tangent or a small shift from this, how to use when from festival to when is your when is your birthday? Let's say this is the quiz, and you have to kind of write it down in Hindi. How would you say that? I'm just going to give you some time so you can think about it and write down on the chat box. Again, remember, when is kab. Okay, so when is kab, and birthday. Some of you already know the Hindi word for birthday. If not, you can always use the formula to ask it, right? So the formula is again को हिंदी में क्या कहते हैं. So anything that you want today, birthday को हिंदी में क्या कहते हैं? Birthday को हिंदी में जन्मदिन कहते हैं, right? Birthday को हिंदी में जन्मदिन कहते हैं. So as you guys rightly said, most of you, one thing is clear, that because it's when, you will be using kab, right? And it's because it's you'll be using, you is aap, but it's your, so you'll be using some postposition. So either it would be aapka, aapki, or aapke, right? In this case, it's aapka because janmdin is masculine. So aapka janmdin कब है? आपका जन्मदिन कब है? Right? That's the easiest way of asking you. Or you can say, as Chelsea rightly said, if it is a very close friend of yours, आपका is more formal, right? You can also say तुम्हारा. तुम्हारा, more like kind of a semi-formal, and then you can say tera if you are very very close to the person and you don't mind, if you're intimate to them, you can use tera also, right? But if it's a stranger, if you don't know the person, tera can be considered kind of a rude. So start with here, and then if you're not sure, and if you want to be really careful about respecting, you can use aapka. If you're kind of sure, you can use tumhara. If you're not at all, if you are very very sure actually, then you can use tera. And again, similarly, like kab hai, another one would be kab aata hai. You can use a verb here as well if you want to, and that would be acceptable as well. All right, so I hope this is clear. Let's jump to the next topic. or next interrogative rather. And before doing that, second one is how. Like, how do you celebrate it, right? That's kind of the another theme when you're talking about a festival to anyone. You want to know how do you celebrate it, right? Um, in order for you to make those sentences, you need to know a verb called to celebrate. To celebrate. Since some of you are advanced, I'm going to take a quick pause here to see. Do you have any idea how do you use this verb in Hindi? Or what is the Hindi word for this word to celebrate? Very good, right? So it's to celebrate is manana. So you have a ma, na with a, and then another na, manana, manana. Okay, manana. It's ma with m, if that makes it easier for you to remember, right? Manana. Manana also has another meaning. Like one is to celebrate, another one is like, let's say if somebody's upset and I want to basically boost them up, or I want to kind of like console them. That also means manana. Like मैं आपको मनाता हूँ. That means like if you're upset with me, I'm trying to please you, right? मैं मनाता हूँ. Whereas like मैं दिवाली मनाता हूँ, it's I celebrate Diwali, right? So the easiest one before we jump to how, let's try to use it in some sense, right? So मैं दिवाली मनाता हूँ. I celebrate Diwali, right? Or let's say if somebody is asking you, do you celebrate Diwali, right? So this is like I celebrate Diwali. I celebrate Diwali, right? So let's say if I were to give you a small quiz, and if you were to convert this thing in Hindi, do you celebrate Diwali? Because you've done it before, this kind of sentences, give it a try and see if you can translate this into Hindi. Do you celebrate Diwali? Okay. Okay. So most of you approached it quite right. This would be, do you celebrate Diwali? Right. So again, the verb is manana, right? Uh, because aap is considered like a, if you want to be respectful, it would be kya aap Diwali मनाते हैं. क्या आप दिवाली मनाते हैं, right? um, some people ask, like, sometimes when they are reading it, some people use they're ending it with ho. Which one is correct? And the answer is both of them are correct. Sometimes I simply use hai because it makes it easier for people to remember, because even for hum diwali kya, even when you're using hum like a third person plural, way, hum, for all of them, up, way, or hum, all of them, the ending is hai is correct. That's why I keep it consistent and I use hai. But even if you're using ho, that's right as well, right? So क्या आप दिवाली मनाते हो versus क्या आप दिवाली मनाते हैं? Both of them are correct. Yes, that's right. Okay, so this is clear. Now let's try to introduce how in this sentence, right? Um, right. So how do you know? The question is how does it get? If you want to say how does it get celebrated, how does it get celebrated, or you know, how do you? I'm again and again making mistake here in this one. How do you celebrate it? If you were to translate these sentences, these kind of sentences in Hindi, you'll be using another interrogative, which is कैसे, right? Um, Again, it could be either you can have three different forms. Either you can use कैसा, कैसे, sorry, कैसी, or कैसे. There are three ways of thinking about it, right? कैसा, कैसी, and कैसे, right? For any kind of masculine plural, it's कैसे, right? So in this case, you will be using कैसे, right? Right. So you'll be saying Diwali कैसे मनाते हैं. दिवाली कैसे मनाते हैं? I kept it very simple. You know, if you want to make it a little bit more advanced, right? It itself means like how does it get celebrated, right? Um, if you want to make it a little bit advanced, you can say India में in India दिवाली कैसे मनाते हैं. इंडिया में दिवाली कैसे मनाते हैं? It's celebrated in other countries as well. So Indians are equally intrigued when it comes to how it gets celebrated into other countries, right? So let's say if you want to find out how does it get celebrated in Guyana, right? How do you say that? So you can say that simply by using Guyana, and then again read it as मैं. गयाना में in basically गयाना में दिवाली कैसे मनाते हैं, right? So you can simply say that as well. गयाना में दिवाली कैसे मनाते हैं. Okay. Let me give you a quiz, and then in the meantime, I'll take some questions as well. Uh, how does Christmas get celebrated in, let's say, UK? Your task is to, translate this based on what you've learned so far. Think about how would you write it in Hindi, this sentence. And in the meantime, I'll take some questions. Okay. So some of you already UK में. Okay. So some of you already wrote it down. So it's basically UK में क्रिसमस कैसे मनाते हैं. यूके में क्रिसमस कैसे मनाते हैं. um, Chelsea has asked a very good question, and I had to look up why we are not using Cassie here or Casa here. Um, I had to look up actually because there is one more concept which I'm not able to recall. The correct one, you cannot use it. You have to use कैसे बनाते हैं. But I have to get back on why we are not using Cassie. There is one more principle, but I'll get back to you on that one. Okay, UK में क्रिसमस कैसे मनाते हैं. Um, Chrissy says there is like, does the word order matter? Could you say UK में क्रिसमस कैसे uh, मनाते हैं, मनता है. You saying मनता है और मनाते हैं? Because you can put this thing in the end if you want to. Christmas कैसे मनाते हैं UK में, which is still like, I won't say it's completely correct, but some people say that like Christmas कैसे मनाते हैं UK में. Because of the language agility, you can put this thing in the end, which is still, people will be able to understand you. Christmas कैसे UK में मनाते हैं. You can still, so the word order does matter, but however, if you still end up saying it that way, people will completely understand you, and that too how you are saying it, right? I mean, uh, because of language agility, Hindi allows you can put it everywhere. Christmas कैसे UK में मनाते हैं, you can say that, there's nothing wrong with it. But again, if you want to be grammatically correct, you can put this thing in the beginning, right? It's easier to read it, you know. There's one more question. लोग कैसे, that's what I'm thinking, that when, because it's because you're talking about who, right? I mean, who is celebrating it? So maybe it's plural, but I'll look up actually. लोग क्रिसमस कैसे मनाते हैं. So if you're talking about masculine plural, that's one way, right way to think about it, that maybe it's plural, right? And this कैसे is referring to something or some people, a group of people, and that's why we are using कैसे. Okay, now that we've gone through when and how, the next one I have is where, right? And where, as some of you already know, is kahan, right? Ka with her, ha, and then kahan, where, right? Where do they celebrate? Where do they celebrate Diwali? Where do they celebrate Diwali? Or where does it get celebrated? It would be Diwali कहाँ मनाते हैं. दिवाली कहाँ मनाते हैं. ओके, दिवाली कहाँ मनाते हैं. कहाँ is where, and again मनाते, it's a form of manana, but because it's present indefinite, it's मनाते, right? दिवाली कहाँ मनाते हैं. And you can think of it as like, आप, or you, or they, but we are simply saying दिवाली कहाँ मनाते हैं. आप दिवाली कहाँ मनाते हैं, you can say that, which is you. They is वे दिवाली कहाँ मनाते हैं. But because we're simply referring it as दिवाली कहाँ मनाते हैं, it's, manana becomes mana, manate. right? Same thing if you were to like, ask, let's say, Halloween, like where do they celebrate? Where do they celebrate Halloween? It's simple, but I'm gonna still quiz you. Why don't you just write it down? How do you say that um in Hindi? Okay, very good, right? So it's simple, right? Halloween. Halloween कहाँ मनाते हैं, right? So this one is simple. Let's make it a little bit more interesting. Like how, so far it's simply kahan. But as you start reading more and more, like in Hindi script, you'll say that sometimes, it is used in a little different way, right? So let's try to cover. So sometimes you'll see that they write it or people speak as like kahan, kahan. So they say this thing twice. Kahan, kahan, okay? और कहाँ, कहीं नहीं, and the third one is अब कहाँ, fourth actually, right? So sometimes you'll use that, interrogatives are used in a little bit, special manner, like kahan, right? So um, it's basically emphasizing it. Like sometimes you say Diwali kahan manate hain, right? Um, Maybe you're talking about a particular region, like a particular country. Diwali kahan manate hain? You're referring to one country. Diwali kahan manate hain? Let's sometimes, to make it to emphasize it more that let's say it gets celebrated across the globe or many other parts of like world, and you want to say kahan manate hain. So the someone who's asking you the question, they're expecting you to kind of reply or respond to like many countries, not just simply one country. Kahan manate hain. So this is simply you know used for emphasis, right? For example, क्रिसमस कहाँ कहाँ मनाते हैं और ईद कहाँ कहाँ मनाते हैं. It's kind of giving emphasis that it gets celebrated in many locations. Second one is और कहाँ, where else, where else. So let's say somebody asked me the question like Halloween कहाँ मनाते हैं, and with my limited knowledge I could say Halloween US में or let's say Mexico में मनाते हैं. So they can come back and ask me और कहाँ मनाते हैं, where else it gets celebrated, right? So in that case you can use और कहाँ, where else, right? uh, let's say the third one is कहीं नहीं, nowhere, nowhere, right? So give me a quick minute, I want to make sure that I, right? So the third one is nowhere. So let's say if somebody asks me about a festival, right, which is not getting celebrated anymore, not anymore, but let's say, um, let's say they're talking about something which is not celebrated at all anywhere. So you can say कहीं नहीं मनाते हैं. Or um, if you're not able to find something, let's say, right? Let's say my mom told me that, where is the remote, like TV remote, right? And she's not able to find anywhere. I'm not able to find it anywhere. I can say कहीं नहीं मिल रहा है और कहीं नहीं है, it's not anywhere, right? With respect to festival, like, well, let's say they're talking about a festival which is not at all celebrated. um, Give a hypothetical name of any random, festival. Let's say somebody came up with a random name of a festival called Junko. Not a festival, I'm just coming up with, like, so if somebody asks me Junko kahan manate hain, which is just an absurd word in this case, I can say kahin nahi manate hain, because it's not really a proper noun or a proper festival, right? So that's the third one, kahin nahi. Ab kahan, now where, अब कहाँ मनाते हैं, right? So again, in this is a special case again, fourth one, अब कहाँ मनाते हैं. uh, Imagine, like, let's say a particular festival gets celebrated everywhere, like, 100 countries, and over the course of centuries, like, things evolved, things changed, and only certain people started celebrating it, or certain regions started celebrating it. you know this particular case fits there. Ab kahan manate hain, now where do they celebrate it? Because I know it used to get celebrated in like 100 countries, but I think it gets celebrated in only 10 countries now, and I don't know the name. So I can simply say, um, let's say I can come up with a festival. You guys give me any name of a festival which is not getting celebrated in many countries. you know Perhaps it used to get celebrated in a lot more places. Let's say, um, Veterans Day, because each country has like the different Veterans Day. But imagine, let's say hypothetically, for the sake of our example, it used to get celebrated in many countries, but now, because of uh, like different policies and all, perhaps it doesn't get celebrated everywhere. I can say Veterans Day अब कहाँ बनाते हैं. Answer could be US में मनाते हैं, UK में मनाते हैं, India में मनाते हैं, right? So you'll come up with some names. So I hope these four cases are clear. Take a look at it one more time, focus on them, and see, if it is clear, or if you have more questions on any of them. Okay. So I hope this is clear, and you should feel comfortable and empowered to use these four, different scenarios in your day-to-day conversation. At least try it. It'll make you feel more confident. The fourth interrogative that I want to cover is क्यों. क्यों is why, right? Let's say, why do they celebrate why do they celebrate it? And again, we are referring to way, um, right? And we are referring to a festival. Why do they celebrate Diwali, right? So the simplest one would be Diwali क्यों मनाते हैं. दिवाली क्यों मनाते हैं? I'll quiz you a little bit here. Take any festival and write down the same sentence. Um, it's simple. You see it on the screen, but just for the sake of it, write down one festival, and and ask question to someone. Or let's say, think about a festival where you don't know the meaning, or where you don't know the significance of it, and you want to find out, right? Uh, Take any other festival name and write it down. Okay. क्रिसमस क्यों मनाते हैं? हैलोवीन क्यों मनाते हैं? होली क्यों मनाते हैं? ओके। ओके। गणेश क्यों मनाते हैं? ओके। Janet, you want to say something? Can write down any festival name. All right. Sorry, guys, we got disconnected. I'm glad you guys are still here. Give me a quick minute. All right. So we were discussing about this interrogative called why, right? And if, imagine if somebody asks you this question, somebody asks you a question, Diwali क्यों मनाते हैं? Why do they celebrate Diwali? Your response can be क्योंकि let's say um, it's a bigger, I mean the reason is a little difficult but I'll make it simple for you. क्योंकि यह For some reason it. Can you see the whiteboard, guys? Okay. Okay. क्योंकि यह okay. Give me a quick minute, okay? If if you can just mute yourself, that will be much easier. It'll be क्योंकि यह so basically they celebrated to kind of symbolize the victory of good over evil, right? Um, so I can simply say um, क्योंकि यह or maybe I can say light को symbolize करता है, right? और क्योंकि यह goodness क्योंकि यह goodness का symbol है. That's much easier and simple. क्योंकि यह goodness का symbol है. And you can look into the more kind of granular details of why it did get celebrated, because one of the reason is because Lord Ram came back to his main city after like killing a demon. But it'll get really complicated if we make those sentences. But from the simplicity perspective, you can simply say because it symbolizes like goodness. Okay. Okay. So some people, can you see it on the screen or you don't see anything on the screen? Let me just make sure you can see anything. Can you guys see the screen? Okay, can. Okay. I guess some people got disconnected and they cannot see it. Too bad. Somehow, for a few seconds my network got disconnected, and I guess that's because of the reason some people cannot see it. Okay. I'll just cover one more topic actually, and to make sure that people don't miss out. Uh, how are we doing with time? We still have time? Okay, we still have 10 minutes. The last one we have is which, right? For which, this interrogative, you have three ways, right? You have consa, you have consi, and you have conse. Okay, so that's which, and we'll see how we use these interrogative in our sentences in just a minute. Which, okay. Um, if you can just make sure that you are muted, there's some background noise, you know. So I really appreciate if you can just quickly check it. So it's consa, consi, and conse. Okay. So let's say I want to find out, or I want to say which festival is today. Which festival is today in India? Let's say. So without going into the answer, let me ask you, if you were to translate or if you were to write it down in Hindi, how will you do that? And because uh, Diwali, let's say, or Tihar is masculine, you can say kaun sa, right? Okay, very good. Okay, so most of you have attempted it quite right. So you'll say India mein, in India, and today is आज, इंडिया में आज कौन सा, so it's कौन and then सा, कौन सा त्योहार है, इंडिया में आज कौन सा त्योहार है. Okay, or you can simply say आज कौन सा त्योहार है, which festival is today, right? Okay. Um, let's say if you want to find out which day is today, sometimes we, even though we know it, but we don't want to put our brain and we simply want to ask someone which day is today, like whether it's uh, Thursday or let's say Friday. How will you say the same thing in Hindi? Which day is today? Very good, right? It will be आज कौन सा, and day is दिन. आज कौन सा दिन है? आज कौन सा दिन है? It would be आज मंगलवार है, like आज Tuesday है basically, right? So that's basically कौन सा. Some of the example of कौन सा. We'll do two more example of कौन सी and then कौन से. Okay, and that will kind of conclude all the common interrogatives that you'll be coming across, right? So now that we have learned कौन सा, let's see, go कौन सी. Okay. Um, let's say because it's a festival season, you shop around and you go to a shop where they're selling some sweets, right? And you want to ask them like, which sweets do you have? Or which car or what kind of car do you have? Which car do you have? In both the cases, sweet is considered feminine, car is considered feminine. Um, I'm gonna quiz you on both of them because you know the structure. Think about how will you say this thing, both of them in Hindi. Okay. And the second one, which car do you have? Okay. So in this case, we're talking about some kind of ownership as well, right? To have. If you remember, we had older lectures, right? To have. To have is ke paas. any kind of possession, right? Mere paas, it's called pass to have, right? There's one, older lectures. If you want to go deeper into how do you, what are the usage of to have, I'll definitely share a link with you on our group, the Hindi learners group. But in this case, you'll be saying, because you have, do you have, right? So आपके पास, and then which sweets, कौन सी मिठाई है, आपके पास कौन सी मिठाई, sweets is मिठाई. And if you remember, in case of feminine, either it's a singular or plural, it still remain कौन सी. So even if it is मिठाइयाँ, so this is plural and this is singular, right? Both of them you'll be using कौन सी, right? When it comes to car, this will be आपके पास कौन सी कार है. So what I want you to do is like look at your sentence and look at this one and try to see where was the gap, whether it was that you couldn't figure out this part, possession part, or whether I'm sure you figured out con C because we're talking about which. So most likely, if there are any gaps, it would be this one, pass. And again, just to recap, it means like if you're talking about any kind of possession, right? You are referring to this one, aapke paas. Okay, simple, but it's just like we are trying to have multiple concepts together. Okay, let's say I just have a last section now, which is so far we have consa, we have cons C, we have conse now. Because Diwali is a festival of light, people usually put lamps outside their house, right? They light it up. Vendors sell different kind of light, like lamps, and you are shopping around and you want to find out which kind of or what kind of types or which kind of lights do you have. Okay, people, they fire crackers also. So what kind or which kind of fire crackers do you have? So there are two things to learn here in terms of like vocabulary: lights and the firecrackers. Lights, it's called diya for singular, and for plural it would be diye. Okay, and when it comes to firecrackers, you will say pataka, like for singular one, and for plural, I'm gonna erase it now. It'll be patake. Patake. It's like a generic word for firecracker, right? So we just learned like to have basically, right? Aapke paas. Now, having learned these, um, two new vocabulary words, if you were to write down these sentence in Hindi, which types of like lights do you have, or which kind of like firecrackers do you have? How do you say that? And that would be kind of the last quiz for today. Try it. It should be easier now. Okay, we have some answers. Okay, so this is masculine plural, right? So that's why it's con say. So most of you figured it out. It'll be आपके पास कौन से, either you'll say दिए हैं, or you can say कौन से फटाके हैं. कौन से. So कौन से will come before your basically what you're trying to purchase. दिए or फटाके, right? Will come before the object, right? So the interrogative is coming before that. So I think most of you got it right, which is good. Please take a look at it one more time to see if you have any questions or comments. So with that in mind, we covered a lot of interrogatives today. We started with kab, which is when. Then we went to kaise, which is how. And then we learned kaha, where. And then kyun, which is why. And then kaun, which is who. And then which part, which is konsa, konsi, and konse. So with that in mind, I hope you feel a little bit more empowered by learning these, like and these six interrogatives and how to use them, especially with respect to the festivals. There are many festivals in coming in November and December. I definitely encourage you to use as many interrogatives as possible in different festivals that are celebrated in your region. With that in mind, I'm just going to stop broadcasting and open it up for panel discussion.